with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive, breaking down the Hard Knocks series featuring the New York Jets. I'm a little behind, so I'm playing catch up. Episodes 2 and 3 have since been released since the last time we've spoken. And so I'm going to give you those recaps real quick from my vantage point as we head into episode 4, which will be tomorrow. And then the season finale next week, episode 5, when they make their roster cuts. So I just want to give you a quick overview of how I feel about this season's Hard Knocks with the Jets to this point. It's been okay. It hasn't been exhilarating TV. Like, I'm at the edge of my seat. I found myself more compelled last year by the Detroit Lions. And I don't know why in particular. I think there's always an element of rooting for the underdog that this show usually presents that they haven't done this year. They've pretty much kind of focused on the low-hanging fruit, if you will. You know, obviously Aaron Rodgers we knew was going to be a huge storyline and that they were going to follow him closely. They've kind of somewhat branched off to guys that have a relationship with him, i.e. Randall Cobb has gotten a little airtime because of his relationship with Rodgers. They obviously were going to follow the dynamic of Rodgers and Zach Wilson, which I knew was going to be part of the storyline, and I'm enjoying that because I actually like Zach Wilson, even though last year he did come off as somewhat of an ass at times that didn't quite get it. But, you know, somewhere in there I think there's a guy that's understanding that the fragility of his NFL career right now, and it's in the balance, and he needs to take as much as he can from Aaron Rodgers and become a better quarterback because of this time. So you're seeing that kind of dynamic. Quentin Williams is being highlighted, obviously. Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, all of the guys that you expected. I just was waiting for them to latch on to someone that was at the back end of the roster, undrafted rookie, free agent, trying to make the team, and they haven't, you know. They'll give us a taste here or a taste there, but, you know, like, I think Izzy Abakanda was someone they were trying to formulate a little bit of a storyline with, and then he gets injured. But he was a 5th-round pick, and I thought he was going to make the team. But, you know, the acquisition, obviously, of Dalvin Cook complicates things. So let's get into all of that. I said all of that to say this. They're not really following any one particular player like we've seen in past years on Hard Knocks to kind of give you that rooting interest of, hey, man, I want to see this guy find a way onto the roster, like we did with the linebacker that was taken in the 7th round last year by the Lions. We're just not getting that this year. And generally you get that, you know, and there are other things that they can focus on because there's so many storylines with the Jets that you don't have to necessarily go out and seek one of those out. But I thought that's kind of what made Hard Knocks something that you wanted to watch. But anyway, I digress. So I got a couple of notes from each episode that I want to address quickly. Things that stood out to me in these particular episodes. Going back to episode 2, I don't mind standing out on this ledge by myself. I'm not the biggest conspiracy theory guy, but I am a theorist, right? I am calling this Mentalist, right? Oz Pearlman, who was on the show, he started episode 2. I am calling his bluff, though. Am I the only one that felt like that was, like, set up? Now, the only one that got me was the goldfish one with Aaron Rodgers at the very, very end, right? But the whole predicting of the score, this 49ers, the throwing of the puzzle pieces, all that shit was garbage to me because there's ways to set that up. Like, don't tell me that every single puzzle piece on that table didn't fit into that one puzzle piece, right? The one piece that was missing, every single piece on that table fit in that same slot. Every single one. That's my guess. Now, if I go back and watch it and I freeze it and I look at the pieces, maybe they're shaped differently. But in my mind, every single one of those pieces probably fit, right? Or at least the ones that he had him pick were going to fit. And the camera moves. First of all, I don't like the fact that he chose specific players, which makes me think that they're in on the ruse, right? Like, this Mentalist, Oz Pearlman, comes in and all of a sudden he knows who Michael Carter is. A guy that just got there this year in Mecole Hardman, he knows who he is right off the bat, just picks him out of the crowd. I'm not buying that, man. But Everyone was all shock and awe. I'm not. I wasn't. My wife was like, bro, like, why are you being such a conspiracy theorist? And I was like, look, man, I'm not buying it. And she just laughed at me because she's like, who cares? Like, just enjoy it. Just sit back and enjoy the show. And I'm like, no, this is garbage. I felt like Cozy, the guy on Big Daddy, when he said different cards. He said different cards, same game. He still wins. He was pissed off because the little kid kept winning. You know, I was pissed off because everybody was like, "Oh man, this is the greatest thing ever," and I'm like, "No, it's not." But maybe it was just me. Maybe I was just tripping. That episode really featured Quinnen Williams and his dominance. And I don't think a lot of people really actually truly know, because the Jets aren't good or haven't been, what he's out there doing and how good he's been and why they paid him all the money. And Robert Saleh makes sure that Quinnen Williams knows at every turn, this is why we paid you all of that money. And so he doesn't let him forget that they just spent a lot of money on him. But he's worth every single penny. And he's been blowing up practice. They showed him blowing up the joint practices with the Panthers. And he was talking about he had like 11 sacks or whatever. It was crazy. He was counting up how many sacks he would have had he been able to actually corral the quarterback. But I think they did a really good job of showing just how dominant Quinnen Williams can be out there on the football field. Rodgers is a quirky dude, and we've seen that throughout his career with different things throughout his career. But it was fun listening to him talk about the snap, right? Like, don't spin that shit back to me, okay? Just send me back a duck, whatever you got to do. Do not spin the ball when you send it back to me. I'll do that when I get it in my hands. I don't want to have to readjust nothing. I just want to get the ball, spin it, get to the laces. Don't spin that bitch back to me. So he was having a real conversation with Wes Schweitzer about how to snap him those balls in the shotgun formation. That was a really interesting conversation. And then, the whole Rodgers with the grass. We've seen him over the years, pick up grass, throw it in the air, feel it a little bit. And he talked about the dexterity that provides, allows him to grip the football better. He also, gets a gauge of the wind by throwing it up, and he proceeded to explain the difference between, the wind blowing towards the left or the right and how you got to throw the deep ball. So you get into a little bit of the mind of an Aaron Rodgers there. I thought that was pretty dope. And then Rodgers had a relationship with one of the Panthers coaches. Their O-line coach is James Campen, who was in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers for a number of years. So they established a relationship. So Rodgers, and it sounds like they keep in contact quite often, and being that the two teams were going to be, scrimmaging each other during the week of practice and playing in the preseason game, they probably had some, words with each other prior to that. And, Rodgers came up to him, "Hey, what's up, you little bitch?" And then he says, you look like shit. Then he started giving him grief about his weight. And that dude was like, leave me the F alone, okay? So that was a great exchange there. Two buddies just kicking it a little bit. That was pretty dope. And then I thought one of the, usually every episode they have a theme with the coach making a message to the team. And we've seen this in just about every Hard Knocks. They take one scene of the team meeting where the coach is addressing the team, and they use that clip to kind of define the episode, so to speak. In episode 1, it was Saleh coming in and, essentially telling them, hey, we got to be the ones to kind of change the narrative, and I think he used like the whole, I think it was the eagle thing. I think it was an eagle he used as the analogy, flying up into the air and all of that stuff. Episode 2 was about the offensive line. So they had some rough practices during the course of the week, especially some of those joint practices with the Panthers where the offense was just a step slow. The offensive line was getting destroyed. Rodgers didn't have enough time. And so, Saleh addressed the offensive line and he gave a speech. He said, look, the stink that is on this organization cannot be wiped away unless the big guys up front do their jobs. Like, we can go out and get Aaron Rodgers. We can get all the skill position players we want. We can have the best defense in the league, as they showed last year, one of the better defensive units. All that shit doesn't matter if the big guys up front don't do their job. So he pretty much, laid the responsibility in their lap. Like, hey, we got all the pieces. You're the ones that can change the game. You can undo everything that we've did, or you can help add to it and help build this into a bully. It's up to you. If you want to change what we've been for the last decade plus, then you got to get on your horse, and you got to make sure that you do your part and you carry your weight as a unit up front. So, he really got into the offensive line, and for good reason, because we all know the offensive line is the quickest way to destroying any kind of hope you have on the offensive side of the football. And then Will McDonald, and this was like a little sidebar, rookie first-round pick out of Iowa State, was getting a piercing. He got his nose pierced, and he got his eyebrow pierced. So for those of you a little squeamish, that part of the episode may not be for you. I thought it was pretty dope. I'm not a piercing, I do have one in my ear, which I need to get a new earring, but I'm not a big piercing guy. I'm not a big tattoo guy, but he is both. He seems like one of those free spirit type of players, or people in general, not a player, but free spirit type of person, where he just kind of goes with the flow, does whatever he wants, and figures it out later on down the line. So that was, to me, in a nutshell, episode 2 of Hard Knocks. And then we get to episode 3, which brings us kind of current. So this episode starts off with Robert Saleh talking about competitors, and that there are 4 levels of competitors. And he talks about Survivor. These are the guys that do just enough, to be on the team. They're more concerned with what the sport can bring to them, fame, money, than they are actually maximizing their potential, right? That was the message of a Survivor. They're doing just enough to get by. They're kind of camouflaging. They're talented, but, they're not putting in the work. They're not necessarily intrinsic in terms of motivation. They are more motivated by external factors, not internal factors. But then you have the contender. This guy is more so motivated by external factors, but, he is willing to put in the work, but it's going to take something to get it out of him. He's not necessarily going to go, the extra mile, so to speak, but he's not afraid of putting in the work. He's not as shallow as the Survivor. He's not looking to just get by, but you're going to have to find a way to get that talent out of him. That's the case with the contender. Then there's the competitor. This is a guy, self-motivated. He's maximizing his full potential every single day. He can't be swayed by external factors because he's out there busting his ass and doing all that he can to be the best player that he can possibly be. Doesn't care about money, doesn't care about fame, doesn't care about where he is on the depth chart. You're going to get the best out of this guy each and every single day because that's all he knows how to produce. All right, and he's like, these are the players that we want, competitors, right? And then the highest on the rung of competitor is a commander. And he's like, the commander has every single trait that we just discussed with competitor, except this one thing. He brings others along with him. And so that was a big part of the episode there. And then, guys like Quentin Williams throughout the episode, like, hey, I'm a commander, though. Because, Robert Saleh tried to put Quentin Williams in the competitor category. He's like, nah, F that. I'm a commander. Like, I'm trying to bring them with me. You know what I'm saying? So that was funny. Listening to Randall Cobb explain to the wide receiver group, and kind of get these guys like, he's like, yo, Aaron's going to snap in a little bit. I'm just letting y'all know, like, if shit's not going right, like, he'll tolerate it up to a certain point, and then he'll just snap off. And I'm telling you right now, if you want the football, you're going to have to run your routes precisely, and you're going to have to catch the football. If he doesn't trust you, he is not going to throw you the ball. Period. He does not like throwing interceptions. So trust me when I tell you this. I've played with him for a lot of years. He's not throwing you the ball if he don't trust you. All right? If it comes down to him taking a sack or an interception instead of throwing you if it comes down to taking a sack, to not throw you the ball versus throwing an interception, he'll take the sack, but he's not going to throw you the ball if he don't trust you. So, and Randall Cobb's not bullshitting. You want to know why? You look up, Aaron Rodgers only threw 4 interceptions. He's only thrown 6 interceptions, 35 touchdown passes, because he's not going to force it to a guy that he doesn't trust. He'll take the sack before he does that. Dalvin Cook makes a cameo on the show. Obviously, the Jets, that was big news that week. The Jets signed running back Dalvin Cook to a 1-year deal. So he made a cameo. He wasn't yet at practice, but he did come in, meet the coaching staff, meet the players, say what's up to everybody. But then he had to get back because his wife was giving birth to one of their children. So they were inducing her. So he was going back home to be with his wife. So he made a cameo. But I thought even more pertinent was the fact that Breece Hall finally made an appearance. Remember, this is a guy that to me is a forgotten man, which is why I didn't think they needed to go out and get Dalvin Cook. But they don't know if they can trust Breece Hall to stay healthy, which I get. But between Breece Hall, Michael Carter, and Israel Abakanda, I thought they had more than enough at the running back position where they didn't need a Dalvin Cook. But apparently they felt like they just needed somebody steady that they could trust, that's a veteran. Like, they're trying to win now. And I just mentioned 3 guys that probably have, 3 years or less of experience on each of their resumes. I think Michael Carter has been in the league the longest. I think this is year 3 for him, but Breece Hall's going into year 2, and Izzy Abakanda is a rookie. So I think they just wanted a guy that was kind of up to speed with the rest of the roster, because this roster is ready to win now, and I don't think they trusted the young backs to be able to do that. So bringing in a guy like Dalvin Cook kind of takes a little bit of that burden off of the shoulders of those young running backs. But Breece Hall, a lot of people forget, he was well on his way to winning Rookie of the Year before he gets injured. So they kind of touched on his story as a rookie, talked about the injury. He talked about the process of trying to get back. He finally was cleared to join the team on the practice field. And I think he got up to like 21 miles an hour running on one particular play where he caught a slant. So I'm really excited for Breece Hall and what he can potentially bring to that Jets offense. And then, they kind of highlighted Izzy Abakanda a little bit, showed his family. They were at the game. They're from Brooklyn, so it's kind of a really good story there. They're not too far away from where the Jets are playing in New Jersey, and so it's easy for them to be able to come attend the games. He's a 5th-round pick out of Pitt, and so the likelihood was he's going to make the roster. He still may make the roster, but he did bump knees with one of his fellow offensive linemen during the game against the Carolina Panthers, in which he ended up having to be helped off the field, left the game on crutches where he met his family. And so, that sucks. And that's the part of the game that sucks, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's part of football, right? So that was another part of episode 3. And then this was the best part of episode 3. So Woody Johnson, who is the owner of the Jets, he, took his jacket off as he was addressing the team to display and unveil this iced out Woody chain that he had on, right? This thick necklace with the Woody pendant on it. All of it is iced out, right? So obviously some of the players have rubbed off on him a bit. I don't know if it was real or not, okay? Because most guys in Woody's position don't like spending money frivolously. So I don't know. Woody might have gotten him a chain that looked real, but it was fake as I don't know what. But whatever the case may be, I thought Woody could have put a little extra sauce on it, but he did the best he could. Okay. So he talked to the team about what he thinks they're fully capable of, and how he thinks that they got everything that they need in that room to be successful and win, and not just win big this year. And then in episode 2, so this was something I left out of episode 2, and I did it with the purpose of this. They had the players perform the rookie night, which every team does. It used to be more hazing going on. It's less of that now as, players have evolved. But every team has the rookie night where the rookies have to put on a show for the vets. And normally the best ones are skits where guys can mock someone or something like that, one of the coaches. That usually is a hit every time. Nobody seemed to want to do anything like that. Everybody wanted to just sing with this team, and none of it was any good, right? None of it was any good for either one of them. So everybody got booed, and what they did was they said, y'all got to come back and y'all got to run this back. So yeah, tomorrow or whatever, y'all got to do this over again because this wasn't good enough. So they ran it back, and it was a little bit better. Wasn't a lot better, but one guy stole the show, and his name is Jerome Cap. He's a undrafted rookie wide receiver, and he did a rendition of Eminem's Battle Freestyle, the final round in the movie 8 Mile, and he killed it. And the players enjoyed that, and he saved the rookie night, I think. So that was episode 3. Also, the Bucks came to town in episode 3, and it was an extremely physical week of practice. They had joint practices. There were at least 5 or 6 fights that they showed on that episode to kind of show you the physicality that was taking place. And my wife was sitting there kind of baffled, like, why are they doing this? And I'm like, that's a part of football. When you're beating up on each other every day in camp, and then they finally bring you a brand new team to beat up on, there's a lot of aggression, a lot of things. And there's certain things, certain lines that you try not to cross with your teammates that you don't mind crossing with another team. So, it's hot outside, emotions run high. Football is a naturally aggressive sport. So, what you perceive to be somebody crossing a line, it takes you to another level. You're already hot. You're pissed off because you're out here, getting it in for the 3rd straight day. And now I'm just ready to hit somebody. And all of a sudden, all it takes is for one person to pop off. Everybody's jumping in, and it turns into a nice little brouhaha. So she just was like not really understanding why they keep getting into fights and altercations. I'm like, that's just football, man. It's such an aggressive sport. You almost have to be wired differently to play football at a high level. Like, you got to be ready at just about a drop of a hat to scrap at all times as a football player, because your mentality is like killed or be killed. And I know that's a little extreme, but on the football field, you always hear them talk about going to war, and I know some people who've actually been to war don't like that analogy. It's not that, obviously. It's a game, but it's a physical, violent game, and you either get or be got. And so you see a lot of that when you get to practice. So it's extremely physical. So and they know it's no punishment for busting a dude upside his head in a joint practice. Whereas in a game you do that, they coming after your check. So it's a little different when they know, hey, I can be as violent and as physical as I want to be without having any real, the team can do something to me, but the likelihood is they might send me inside early, but that's the least that's going to happen to me. I'm not going to get fined or anything like that. So anyway, there have been people that have been advocating for the league to start fining players for these fights and these altercations and these joint practices. I don't think you're going to see anything be done, but because I think that would discourage teams from wanting to joint practice. Players, or at least players, from wanting to do it. So anyway, I digress. That was episode 3 in a nutshell. Episode 4 will feature this last preseason game, obviously, where they played the Giants. Aaron Rodgers and the first team offense and defense both saw the field for the first time in the preseason. So that should be fun to see. Rodgers in his debut as a Jet. Also, the communication going on the sidelines, because the first possession did not go well. And then the second possession ends up in a touchdown. So I'm anxious to see what happened on the sidelines after the first possession, and then what happened after they, of course, scored the touchdown. Rodgers with a beautiful pass to Garrett Wilson for the score, and kind of see how everybody reacted to that, and kind of listen to what was going on the sidelines as all of this stuff was transpiring. So I expect this to be a really fun episode, because you're actually seeing these guys get in the game and play. And then we'll see what happens with the cut down. And really, episode 5 doesn't really have a ton of suspense, because they haven't been following anybody this entire time to see who does or doesn't make the roster. So that 5th and final episode, which there's usually, we already usually know, because the episode doesn't come on until Tuesday and the final cuts have already been made. But you won't have that sense of, oh my God, I wonder if he's going to make the roster. Like, as we're thinking about cuts right now, there's not one Jet player that you're like, man, I wonder if he's going to make the roster. I wonder if he's been cut already. Because there hasn't been that suspense built up by them following a guy around. But anyway, I digress. Enough of me talking your head off. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, and episodes 2 and 3 of the New York Jets Hard Knocks recap. Come back. Episode 4 is on Tuesday night. As soon as I can find the time with my wife to sit down and watch it, we'll knock episode 4 out, and I'll have a recap in the oven for you as soon as possible. But until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.